Shalom everybody. In today's video, I will be revealing the secret of the Alukah, sometimes translated as the leech, and in other places mystically translated as the vampire, its origins, and the great mystery and secret behind its attributes and functions. So with that being said, let us begin. We will begin by quoting a portion from Apples from the Orchard, a collection of mystical insights on the weekly Torah portions from Rav Yitzhak Luria, also known as the Arizal. Section 3, page 225, the circulatory and respiratory systems. It is known that initially, in its immature state, Zeranpin possesses three facets of intelligence, expressed as three names of Elohim, spelled out with the letter Yod, spelled out with the letter He, and spelled out with the letter Aleph. These three letters form the mnemonic acronym Yehi, may it be. We see here below three iterations of the name of Elohim, expanded: Aleph, and then Aleph Lamed Fe, Lamed, which is Lamed Mem Dalet, and then He, which can be expanded either He Yud, He, or He Aleph. Yud is expanded Yud Vav Dalet, and Mem is expanded Mem Mem. These are the three iterations. When it is expanded with the Yud, it refers to the sphere of Bina and has a numerical value of 300, or the letter Shin, hinting to the fire. When it is expanded with the letter He, it refers to the sphere of Gevura, which can be read as Gavur He, the mighty He, hinting to the Elohim of the He. And then it can be expanded with He Aleph, in which Elohim in its Milui has a numerical value of 291. This is the same value as the word Eretz, Aleph Resh Tzadi, which also is a value 291, and means the earth, hinting to the name of Elohim as it refers to the sphere of Malchus. Now, to fully understand what it's saying about the immature state, we must reference one other thing. In particular, when Zeranpin is in his first phase, which is called Ibur, this is a level called immature mentalities. The Netzach, Hod, and Yisod of Ima form the Kalim, or vessels, of Chokmah, Bina, and Da'as of Zeranpin. Now, Ima is a vessel for the light of Abba, and all the aspects of Ima are in the secret of the name of Elohim. Thus, these three iterations of Elohim, as being expanded and expounded by the Arizal here, refer to the iterations of the three mentalities of Zeranpin, Chokmah, Bina, and Da'as, during the phase of Ibur. And he's stating here that these three expansions of the letters Yod, He, and Aleph spell may it be. That's our first understanding. It is very critical for us to see that the Netzach, Hod, and Yisod form the Chokmah, Bina, and Da'as of Zeranpin. Later, when Zeranpin matures, its intelligence is expressed as names of Chavaya, an example Yud-Kei Vav-Kei. When these mature states of mentality enter its consciousness, an example it's Chokmah, Bina, and Da'as, as was explained, they expel the immature intelligence and push it downward, as we've explained elsewhere. There we explained that the first place they descend to is Zeranpin's throat. Thus it states that the immature mentalities are the qualities of Elohim, which are the Kalim, and these come from the Netzach Hod and Yisod of Ima, which is the sphere of Bina, which goes by the name of God Elohim, and they form the Chokmah, Bina, and Da'as of Zeranpin. Thus it says, in the aspects of its mentality and the aspect of entering its consciousness, because Chokmah and Bina are synonymous with the brain. Now, inside the Netzach Hod and Yisod of Ima are the Netzach Hod and Yisod of Abba. These are by the name Yud-Kei Vav-Kei, as it is written, Yirat Hashem, or Yirat Yud-Kei Vav-Kei, Reishis Chokmah. And Abba is the Partsuf of the sphere of Chokmah. Thus, when the internal lights, which are lights of Chavaya, enter into Zeranpin's consciousness, as it were, they push these lights of Ima, an example Elohim, into his throat. Throat is synonymous with Da'as. And it is known that when the Netzach Hod and Yisod of Ima form the Netzach Hod and Yisod of Zeranpin, the Malchus, which is connected with the Yisod of Ima, as it is known, Malchus is in the same chamber as Yisod, is pushed out. This hints to the Partsufim called Leah. Leah has 3 of the letters of the word Elohim, and from this, it's hinted at in what was just stated. Now the following requires an explanation. All a person's other limbs correspond to one or another of the 10 Sefirot. The 3 aspects of his intelligence correspond to the first 3 Sefirot, Chokmah, Bina, and Das. The lower 7 Sefirot correspond to the parts of the body from the right arm and below, covering the whole length of the body, but there is no Sefira corresponding to the throat. The explanation of this phenomena is understood from what we just said, namely, that when the 3 immature states of intelligence are expelled from the brain and descend, they descend first to the throat. Since the throat is a narrow and thin organ, the immature mental state gets stuck there. Now it is known that 3 vital channels or pipelines pass through the throat: the trachea, the esophagus, and the jugular veins, through which all a person's blood and life force passes, as is known. And this is stated in the Talmud, take care with the jugular veins, in accordance with the opinion of Rav Yehuda, who said that the slaughterer must cut through the jugular veins. These 3 channels are formed from 3 aspects of immature intelligence that descend there. Specifically, the trachea is formed from the immature Chokmah, the esophagus is from the immature Bina, and the jugular veins are formed from the immature Da'at. To explain, the right lobe of the brain, the seat of Chokmah, spreads through the trachea, which is on the right side of the throat. This is the significance of the statement in the Zohar, that the lung absorbs all types of moisture. This is a very curious statement, because we know that if even a drop of water extends into the trachea, the person will die. We also see the lower end of the trachea extends into the lungs and the heart, and there is no passageway there through which water that enters the upper trachea could exist elsewhere. The meaning, rather, is that the esophagus carries food and drink and all types of moisture downward, and the trachea is used only for producing the voice and speech, as is mentioned in the Talmud. And in this passage from the Zohar in question, in this respect, the trachea is similar to the world to come, in which there is neither eating nor drinking, etc. To expound this concept, it is revealed that the throat is split up into 3 aspects. The trachea, which is from the lights of Chokmah to the right. The left, which is the aspect of the esophagus from Binah, and the jugular veins, which was the immature Da'as, as it is shown here on the right-hand side. And it was explained that these are in the process of the reception of higher lights, mainly the Netzach Hod Yisod of Ima, which were the secret of the 3 Elohims. This will be expounded further in a moment. And that when the lights of Chavaya or Yud-Kei Vav-Kei begin to enter into this place, they cause them to enter in to the sphere of Da'as. These refer to the Chesadim and Gevuros, as it is shown here. There are 5 Chesadim and 5 Gevuros, and they enter into the sphere of Da'as. All the aspects of the 5 Chesadim refer to 10 names of Yud-Kei Vav-Kei, and all the aspects of the Gevuros emanate and enter in through 10 names of Eheya. These are because there are 10 Spheros in Chokmah and 10 Spheros in Bina, and these 10 Spheros are divided amidst 5 Partsufim. An example, the Arichain pin of Chokmah, the Abba of Chokmah, the Ima of Chokmah, the Zeron pin of Chokmah, and the Nukva of Chokmah. Similarly, the same process occurs on the left with Ima. The Arichain pin of Ima, which is her Keter, the Abba of Ima, which is her Chokmah, the Bina of Ima, which is her Bina, the Ima, Zeron pin of Ima, which corresponds to her lower 6, and the Nukva of Ima. Thus, these 10 become 5 Chesadim and 5 Gevuros, and they enter into Da'as, and they become stuck, as it were. And this is what was being hinted at. Now, from the right side, we see that it extends from Netzach to Chokmah, and from the left side, from Bina to Hod. Now, when it was revealed in Likutei regarding the directions, it was stated, Chesed was south, Gevurah was north, Tiferes was east, Yisod was west, Netzach was up, and Hod was down. Thus we find via the trachea a rising, because Netzach, or the right column, ascends upwards. And through the trachea, speech ascends up and out, while on the left side of the throat, corresponding to the esophagus, we see in connection with Hod descending. This descending was hinting to the idea of food, which is the aspect of flesh, or the left side, descending into the body through the throat. And so we see on the right side the trachea, which rises up speech, the vehicle for wisdom. And from the left side, we see descending through the esophagus, the secret of flesh. And there are 3 columns that correspond into the throat. And from the right, we drink water. And from the left, we eat flesh. And from the center, air. We take in air. So that we find personifications of the right, left, and center columns present here in the throat. Water from Chokmah, which was the secret of the moisture. Flesh, which is the secret of Bina, called the end of all flesh. And the air, which is the secret of Da'as. Now to continue our exposition. Nonetheless, when the fluids and moisture descend through the esophagus and reach the location of the lungs, the intensity of the heat of fire issuing from the flame of the heart towards the lungs, as it is known, causes the lungs to absorb the distilled and pure liquids via the membranes of the esophagus and the lungs. The lungs then pass these liquids to the heart to cool off its intense heat. It is known that the esophagus is attached to the trachea and the lungs until it descends lower to the location of the stomach. So it refers to the lights of Ima, which first enter into that quality of Da'as. And then later, when the lights of Chavaya enter, it descends into the lower regions. Mainly, the names of Elohim descend even farther. And this ultimately refers to that location of the stomach, which is below Tiferes, into the Netzach, Hod, and Yisod. Yisod is the reproductive organ. And so we find that the stomach is located in the lower 2/3 of the chest. And so this hints to the water or the moisture descending from the lungs, and from the lungs is to the sphere of Da'as. This hints to that quality of Leah, and it descends then into the heart, which is that quality of Tiferes. And the heat of the heart, which are the fires of the lights of Bina, as it is known, the lights of Tiferes are from the lights of Bina. Thus, we find that the moisture of the lungs was to cool the heart off. This is the connection between Da'as and Tiferes that was just explained. However, when it comes to the lights of Ima, that is to say the esophagus, these descend all the way down, ultimately passing through that region of the stomach, which is the lower 2/3 of Tiferes, in between Netzach and Hod, where all the digestive system lays, and ultimately ends up at Yesod, where the food is ultimately excreted. And this comes about in the same likeness, for the three are found here as well. A person defecates from the backside of Yesod. A person also has flatulence, and so they pass gas, and this also passes through Yesod, and they also urinate. And so that we can see these three columns pass through in this location as well. And so we find and learn from this, the first part is that the moisture is absorbed by the lungs, that is Das, and is connected to the heart for the cooling off. We find that the esophagus, which was the left side, hinting to Bina, descends all the way down into the stomach region. That is to say, its reach is farther, as shown in this diagram here as well. And we can see here Da'as is synonymous here with the lungs and descends down to the heart. And we see that the lights of Ima via the esophagus descend all the way into the digestive tract and ends at the sphere of Yesod, the same location of the height of the Partsufim of Leah and Rachel. Leah, the first place where they're gathered at, is in the sphere of Da'as, where it says they become stuck. And Rachel later, whose height is from the lower 2/3 of Tiferes to Yesod, the entire location of the digestive tract. The lobe of the brain of Bina extends to the esophagus, which is on the left side, and through which the food passes. As is known, all forms of nourishment originate in Gevura, this being the mystical significance of the sage's statement that providing sustenance for people is as hard for God as splitting the Red Sea, as is mentioned in the Zohar. The middle stem of the brain is the seat of Das and extends via the jugular veins, which are an intermediary between the trachea and esophagus, and which transport the blood, the vehicle of the chief life force of the person. For the blood, which is important because it carries the animal soul nefesh of the person, passes through them. It was explained that the animal soul was in the secret of the left ventricle of the heart, and how the heart corresponds to the sphere of Tiferes. And so we find that Da'as, which is the jugular vein according to the throat, descends and is connected with the heart. The purpose here being the transportation of blood. The jugular vein is responsible for taking blood from the heart and to the heart from the brain. The right was the trachea, which was responsible for ascending the voice upwards and absorbing moisture, for Chokmah is in the secret of moisture. And the left side, being the esophagus, is responsible of descending, specifically via food. We find that three things enter into this place: water, solids, and air, which are the three columns. We have previously explained on the verse, whoever sheds the blood of a person will have his blood shed by another person, how the Yesod of Ima is signified by the name Ehia, and that the numerical value of the regressive iteration of this name is the same as the word for blood, Dam, in example 44, and that this iteration becomes vested in the letter Vav of the name Yud-Kei Vav-Kei of Zeranpin, this being its Tiferes. When this name is spelled out to 45, an example with the letter Aleph, the letter Aleph used in the spelling out the Vav alludes to the name Ehia vested in it. We thus see the iteration Aleph, Aleph Hey, Yud, Aleph Hey, Yud Hey has a numerical value of 44. And the 45 name in question is when you take Yud-Kei Vav-Kei and expand it in the following likeness: Yud Vav Dalet, which equals 20, Hey Aleph, which equals 6, Vav Aleph Vav, which equals 13, and Hey Aleph, which equals 6. This equals 45. He states that the Aleph in between Vav is Ehia, and this one Aleph between Vav is the difference between the numerical value of the word Dam or blood and the 45 name. For the word blood in Hebrew, dalet mem, has a value of 44. The same iteration as ehia in its squaring. The squaring refers to the emanation of something, as I'll expound in a moment. And Zeranpin is called by the 45 name, the central sphere of which corresponds to Tiferes, which is also the heart. And so it was explained that the names of Yudke Vavke and Elohim, which are vested in Ehia, become stuck, as it were, in the sphere of Das, that is to say, the throat. And this is because Yudke Vavke times 10 is 260. Ehia times 10 is 210. 260 plus 210 is a numerical value of 470. This is the Ayin Tav, or 70 plus 400 of the word Da'at, spelled Dalet Ayin Tav. Now, to further iterate, it's said that the squaring of Ehia, which enters into Da'as, is the secret of that blood. Because, remember, a squaring refers to an emanation, as it was taught in Likutei. And therefore, Aleph, Aleph Hey, Yud Hey, has a numerical value of the word blood. And for this reason, as it was stated, the esophagus is responsible for taking food in via the throat, and then descends into the body, connected to the heart here, specifically for the purpose of turning it into blood. And so our blood is formed from the things in which we eat, and the things that we eat become the blood in our body, which is why it is so crucial to live a kosher life, because the food that you eat becomes the blood pumped in your body. Therefore, the squaring of Ehia, which is a symbol of these gevuros that enter in, is the secret of blood. And that squaring having a value of 44 hints to the 45 name, mainly of Yudke Vavke's expansion in relation to Zeranpin, whose central sphera is Tiferes, which corresponds to the heart, because the food that is eaten by the esophagus descends into the stomach, is digested, ultimately to be absorbed and become blood, which is stored inside of the heart. And so the difference between the Hebrew word for blood, Dalet Mem, being 44, and the 45 name being 45 is 1, hinting to the letter Aleph, which the Arizal said was the Aleph between the Vav Aleph Vav of its expansion, which again hints the sphere of Tiferes and the heart, signifying that this squaring of the blood enters into the heart, and from this place then to all of the other limbs. And this is going to be expounded in just a moment in relation to the spreading of the Chesadim and Gevurot. Thus it says, this presence of the name Ehia and the name Chavaya is known as the person's blood, for the Yisod of Ima is the garment of Da'as, which includes states of Chesed and Gevura that descend via these veins in the form of 10 types of blood, as we have mentioned in our exposition of Pesach and the Exodus from Egypt. This is because the Netzach, Hod, and Yisod of Ima form the Chokmah, Bina, and Da'as of Zeranpin. And so the Yisod of Ima forms the Yisod, or Da'as, of Zeranpin. And so this is the connection that he's referring to here. Now, the Netzach of Ima and the Hod of Ima form the Chokmah and Bina of Zeranpin. And they have vested inside of them the Netzach of Abba and the Hod of Abba. And these are the secret of the 10 names of Ehia and the 10 names of Chavaya, in example Yudke Vavke. And these are the Chesadim and Geveros that were being hinted at, as shown here. And because these 5 Chesadim and 5 Geveros emanate from 10 names of Chavaya and 10 names of Ehia, they enter into the throat. This is the secret of why he stated there were 10 types of blood. The 10 types of blood is because the iteration or squaring of the name of Ehia is the numerical value of the word dam, or blood. Squaring, or an iteration, refers to an emanation and descending. The same thing is over here with Chavaya. These refer to 10 types of water. Thus there are 10 types of blood and 10 types of water, and they gather in to the secret of Da'as, where they become one, as it was just explained, and these are the Chasadim and the Gevuros. This is the secret of the esophagus and the throat. For in the level of the throat, this refers to the throat taking in liquids, which refer to the right side, air, which refers to the center column, and food, which refers to the left column. Furthermore, this refers to the levels of the anatomy of the throat, which the trachea refers to the right side, which absorbs the moisture. And from Netzach, which means up or ascending upwards, for its direction is up, is speech ascending through the trachea. The left column, which is rooted in Hod, meaning down, is the esophagus, which food enters and descends into the stomach to rise up, as it was explained. And Da'as refers to the jugular vein, which is blood. Now, Da'as is connected to Tiferes, and so this blood that descends downwards ultimately has its root in the heart. It continues, this is the mystical meaning of the verse, and the rooms will be filled with knowledge, or Da'as. This refers to the blood, the life force of a person, which extends throughout the entire body via veins, and these are called little rooms. It follows that the blood found in the jugular veins is the immature brainstem, the seat of the immature Da'as as it descends there to the throat, during maturation as it is known. And this is the secret of Da'as fills the house, because the Chasadim and Gevuros descend into Da'as and spread through Chesed, Gevurah, Tifres, Netzach, Hod, and Yisod. The true understanding of this is that the throat takes in water, which replenishes the blood, air, which oxygenates the blood, and food, which creates and forms the blood. And this occurs in the heart, where the heart has two chambers, right and left ventricles, which are responsible for the oxygenation of the blood and the production of the blood. And from this place, an example, Da'as fills the house, or the spreading of the Chasadim and Gevuros, which is the replenishing of the blood in the body via the veins, which take these two colors, blue and red, which are the Chasadim and Gevuros. They spread from the heart, as was just explained, through Chesed, Gevurah, Netzach, Hod, and Yisod, which are the two arms and the two legs and the reproductive organ, and ultimately the feet of the body. And so Da'as fills the house. An example, that which passes through Da'as, or the throat, forms into blood. That blood then in turn moves the entire body. And again, that blood is formed by the liquids that are taken in, the food that is taken in, and the air that is breathed in, which oxygenates it. And this is further seen in the last statement by the Arizal. So we have explained the throat and its three channels, and how the latter are formed from the three immature mentalities that descend there, as we have described, and this is why the narrow part of the body is called the throat, Garon. For the numerical value of this word is equal to 3 times the numerical value of the name Elohim plus the Kolel, which signify the trachea, esophagus, and the jugular vein. The throat includes all three, as we have explained in our exposition. So we find that the word Garon, Gimel Resh Vav Nun, has a numerical value of 259. And Elohim is a value of 86, and 3 times 86 is 258, plus 1 for its totality is 259. So that the word throat is 3 times the value of the word Elohim, because the throat is divided into 3 parts, and they are the Elohim from the vessel of the Netzach of Imah, the Elohim from the vessel of the Hod of Imah, and the Elohim from the Yisod of Imah. And they form the Chokhmah, Bina, and Da'as, which correspond to the trachea, the esophagus, and the jugular vein. And so the word throat in Hebrew is Elohim times 3, because these 3 vessels, which come from Ima, who in general is called Elohim, for Bina is called by this name, form these 3 aspects of the throat. Now, I mentioned at the beginning of this video that I would be revealing the secret of the vampire, or the secret of the Alukah. To explain, it was made known to you that the name of Ahia descends into Da'as, an example, the throat, and that this is the secret of blood, and that the iteration of Ahia, being Dalet Mem, is that of blood. So, with this understanding, it was made known that the Netzach Hod Yisad of Ima formed the Hokmah Bina Das of Zeranpin, and that the Malchus of Bina formed this Partufim called Leah. The same thing here happens in the Klippah, except on the tree of the Klippah, here, where the Partufim of Leah of the evil Zeranpin emerges, it is called the Alukah, Alukah. And the numerical value of Alukah is 216. Hey is 5, Ayin is 70, Lamed is 30, Vav is 6, Kof is 100, and Hey is 5. 216 is the numerical value of Gevura, because the blood was made from the Gevurot. An example, those lights of Ima from Ehiyah that descended into Da'as, that became blood. An example, the throat. And when the evil female enters or emerges from this location in the secret of Leah, or the Leah of the evil Zeranpin, it is in the secret of the Alukah. And the Alukah thus was said to be a vampire, because it sucks blood or draws out the light of Ima from Da'as of evil Zeranpin, and specific, the blood, because it was Dam, or blood, in Da'as, which was the secrets of the lights of Ima from that name of Ehiyah, as it was explained before. And so the Alukah, which some translate as the leech, is also the root of the vampire. And this is also why the vampire, which was often synonymous with a female as opposed to a male, sucked blood specifically from the throat, because in the supernal Partsufim of Zeranpin of the evil side, the Alukah, which is synonymous with the aspect of the evil female, an example, the opposite of the Partsufim of Leah, it emerges from Da'as, or the throat, and therefore vampires were said to drink blood from the throat, as it were, to draw out the life force. So this concludes a basic understanding of some of the very deep mysteries behind the Alukah, the vampire, and miraculous secrets of the Torah of Atzilus regarding the throat, the trachea, the esophagus, and the jugular vein. There's much more that could be said on this matter, and perhaps there will be room for a second video. A new WhatsApp group has been formed. I'll leave the comments pinned down below with a link to join. In that group will be updates for up-and-coming projects, behind-the-scenes looks at various Elons and Torah insights, and much more. So if you're interested in that, I'll leave that down below. But with all of this being said, this begins the first revelation as to the sod of the vampire, the sod of the Alukah. As David HaMelech said, "Open my eyes that I may behold the wonders of your Torah." Amen, everyone. Shalom and Selah.